moment. Look, I think the Attorney General did an exceptional job in laying out the framework of this lawsuit and the why as it relates to the particular issues under the IEEPA, and notably issues that have been brought to the fore as it relates to the major questions doctrine recently by the Supreme Court. I would just highlight just two of the specific examples the Supreme Court used as it relates to the major questions doctrine on the issue of student loans under the Biden administration, on the Clean Power Plan under the Obama administration. If they are consistent, then this lawsuit is a lock in terms of what the Attorney General has laid out and what this state is asserting. But I want to tell you what our state of mind is as it relates to the issues that impact the state of California, obviously the state of our union, and the state of the economy more globally. We talk often about California being the fifth largest economy in the world. That is correct. We're also the largest manufacturing state in the United States of America, $412 billion output. And I want to put that in perspective. Texas is 41% smaller. It's a 41% larger share of manufacturing output just here in the great state of California. It puts in perspective something that often isn't communicated, I think, as effectively as it should be. By the way, the United States is the second largest manufacturer in the world, which is also something that I think is important to highlight. So the manufacturing footprint in this state is disproportionately impacted by the tariffs, disproportionate to any other state in the nation. Of course, we talk about the fifth largest economy in the world. Let's put that in perspective. We're 14% of the U.S. GDP. That is 50% higher than the next state. No other state will be more impacted by the impacts of this, as Christine said, uncertainty that is best described as toxic uncertainty.
I thought that he had spent $25 million Trump-proofing California, or it was actually probably higher than that, if I'm not mistaken. And then on top of that, I thought he was just begging President Trump, as soon as he got in office, for federal funds for their mismanagement of this California wildfire situation. And I'll do you one better. Not only is California operating at a budget deficit, and they're looking for a way to spend this so that Gavin Newsom can ultimately try to run for president of the United States of America, but the city of Los Angeles is facing a more than $1 billion budget deficit. Let's get to the rest of the press conference, and then I'll give you my thoughts afterwards.
Because of these tariffs. Let me underscore that with more consideration and context to where we are. We are also the largest hunting, fishing, agriculture, and forestry state in this nation, 150% larger than the next state, Texas. When folks talk to us about the impacts, regional impacts of rural economies, you're talking about California. You're not just talking about the Midwest and places like Texas. You're talking about our state, the state of California. Almonds you see around us, export dependent. Pistachios, export dependent. Dairy, export dependent. In fact, 43% of almonds and pistachios and dairy are export dependent in the state of California. Few industries will be hammered more than the toxic uncertainty of these Trump tariffs. The impacts, what more evidence do you need? Check your 401k. Check your portfolio. If it includes NVIDIA, you should check it right now. NVIDIA, the great California company, one highlighted by this same Trump administration over the course of the last 24 to 48 hours, just got hit today with a $5.5 billion charge. Great California company got hit with a $5.5 billion charge, sending the markets to tumble yet again today. NASDAQ down over 2% as I speak. The uncertainty is pronounced and it is profound in the state of California. Consider just the imports coming from Mexico, Canada, and China. 44% of all of the imports into the state of California alone come from just those three countries, $197.3 billion in 2023. The impacts of these tariffs, particularly on those three countries, disproportionately impact the state of California.
Well, Well, let me just say this before we continue to get to the rest of this press conference. California should not have been so interdependent on other countries in order for them to be able to survive. And just because California is the largest importer slash exporter, according to what he's citing from 2023, the reality is that we should have been exporting more as a United States of America. Listen, if California want to separate itself and make itself its own country, hey, listen, I think that Gavin Newsom should go through the process to do that, but he is a lame duck governor. Probably going to have somewhere around Kamala Harris, maybe if she doesn't run for president of the United States of America, and get absolutely destroyed again in 2028. But the reality is that we are not going to continue to subsidize California or anywhere else in the United States of America that continues to get rid of American jobs at the behest of doing business with other countries that don't care anything about us, mainly China. And so we can't keep going down this path where we're operating at a federal deficit. California can't even manage its own budget, but yet we finally have a president to stand up for American citizens by not letting other countries take advantage of us, not continue to let us export jobs while importing all of their cheap products. And then he wants to sit here and try to, file a lawsuit, which is just another waste of taxpayer money because it's not going anywhere. And Trump finally has leverage because China has come to the table and said, listen, we trying to figure this out. We trying to set a deal because our economy is already tumbling. And more importantly, it's so funny because we're only 2 weeks into tariffs. Tariffs was announced on April 2nd. As of the recording of this video, it is the 16th. So we're 2 weeks into tariffs and people are already complaining, not understanding that there's always a recovery, that the market is cyclical, and then they're panicking after a couple different days of bad days instead of looking at it as a buying opportunity. So, yeah, this is the thing that you see the California governor talking about, but he won't actually talk about the fact that he's been begging and cozying up to Trump as far as all of the other Republicans and people trying to better understand how he can position himself. This is all him positioning himself and sounding good so that he can ultimately try to run for president of the United States of America. That's really what it is.
Across the spectrum, the impacts are off the charts. We talk about regional disparities. The impact in counties like this, counties like Kern, rural parts of the state will be outsized. It's not just the coast and technology. Think about the impacts already in the mega region of Baja and San Diego. Chris, you were talking about the integration of supply chain.
So funny. Nobody cared anything about Detroit when we was about to file for bankruptcy. We had to figure it out and fix our own mess. And now we're in a good space, and now we're in a better space. Learn how to run your state instead of complaining about the social landscape of what's going on and trying to file a lawsuit. No, own up to what's going on inside of your state and Trump-proof it like you said you was going to do.
And a deeper appreciation and understanding that decades and decades forming relationship, building trust, manufacturing, one side of the border, assembling on the other side of the border. You think about the impacts, the automobile industry, electronics, aerospace, in our state alone, disproportionate impacts. So California, why California? Well, that's why. No state is poised to lose more than the state of California. So that's our state of mind.
Wall off California.
That's why we're asserting ourselves on behalf of 40 million Americans. And I imagine if you caucus those 40 million Americans, you'd find few, I don't care where they were in the last election, that are celebrating this uncertainty.
I am.
That are celebrating the largest tax increase in modern U.S. history. In essence, a sales tax. In essence, a sales tax, a regressive sales tax that hurts working folks. That hurts poor
like
folks.
Biden, a younger Biden.
That hurts hardworking folks like Christine and those that Chris represents disproportionately.
So fake.
This is recklessness at another level. The geopolitical impacts are outsized. The trade impacts are outsized, not just the economic. That's why we were up in Canada making a case anew to try to encourage Canadians. What the hell do we have on the Canadians?
If we actually stood together for 15 seconds, you got to pretty much the gist of this. If we actually stood together for 15 seconds to allow for him a little bit of time to fix all of the bullshit that we've been dealing with over the last decades, actually my entire life, then maybe we would actually get somewhere. But we don't. We don't look to him to work with the Trump administration. He calling Canada instead of talking to Trump. Let me know what y'all think inside of the comments. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon link is in the description. Also, Teach Hanley, 40% off your first order plus 20% off for life. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Peace.